Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive into A Course in Miracles. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Lesson 35.
Okay, great.
And, we've been talking a lot recently about the power of our thoughts and how they shape our reality.
Right.
But this lesson, Lesson 35, called My Mind is Part of God's, I Am Very Holy, kind of takes that idea and turns it upside down.
It does.
Yeah. It's almost like saying, our minds are powerful, sure, but they're not actually our own in the way we typically think.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good way to put it. I mean, the lesson is basically saying that, what we think of as our individual minds are actually just part of, like, this one big mind.
Okay, so rather than all of us having these separate, isolated little bubbles of thought, we're all like tapped into this larger consciousness.
Exactly. The Course calls it the mind of God, this sort of universal consciousness that we're all connected to. It's like, I don't know if this analogy makes sense, but it's like we're all waves in the same ocean. Each wave is distinct, but it's still part of this one big body of water.
Right, right. I get that. So like each of us is like a wave and God's mind is the ocean, the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get this. But then there's this whole other layer to the lesson that I kind of want to unpack. This idea of holiness. I mean, that word can be a bit tricky, right?
Yeah.
What does it really mean in this context?
Yeah, no, you're right. Holiness definitely comes with a lot of baggage, but the way the Course uses it, it's really not about being a saint or being perfectly good or anything like that. It's more about recognizing this inherent connection we have to the divine, to that ocean of consciousness we were just talking about.
Okay, so it's about our essence rather than, like how we act.
Exactly. It's like saying that we all have the spark of the divine within us, regardless of what we do or don't do. Even when we make mistakes, even when we're feeling lost or disconnected, that spark, that holiness is still there.
Okay, I like that. I mean, it kind of makes me think back to what we were saying about the power of our thoughts. If we're all connected to this one mind, did that change how we think about negative thoughts?
It definitely does. I mean, if you think about it, the Course puts a lot of emphasis on forgiveness, right? And if we really buy into this idea that all minds are connected, then negativity, anger, fear, all of that, it's not just something that's happening inside one person's head. It's affecting the whole.
Wow. So it's like our negativity is like rippling outward and it's creating disharmony
Yeah.
in this ocean of consciousness we're all swimming in.
Yeah, exactly. But the flip side of that is that our positive thoughts have that same ripple effect. Our kindness, our compassion, our love, all of that goes out into the world too.
Oh, okay. So it's all about like shifting our perception from fear and separation to love and unity, right?
That's a really great way to put it. And recognizing this interconnectedness, this oneness, it's a huge part of making that shift.
Okay, this is all like really starting to make sense to me. But, I'm always interested in like the practical side of things. How do we actually like apply this in our everyday lives? The Course talks about specific practices, right?
Yeah, it does. So one practice it suggests is mindfulness.
Yep.
Basically just paying attention to our thoughts and gently redirecting them when they start going down a negative path.
Right. And just to be sure I'm understanding this right, this means if we start having a negative thought, we like acknowledge it and shift our focus to something positive instead.
Yes, exactly. It's not about suppressing negative thoughts. It's more about choosing to focus on something else, something more aligned with this idea of our inherent holiness. And another practice the Course mentions is using affirmations. These are short, positive statements that remind us of the truth we're trying to embody, like, my mind is part of God's. I am very holy.
So it's about like consciously choosing to focus on that connection rather than just letting ourselves get swept away by, the chaos of everyday life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like training your mind to see the world through a different lens, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
That makes sense. You mentioned earlier that this lesson also has implications for our relationships. Can you explain that a little more?
Sure. So think about a time when you had a conflict with someone, maybe you felt angry or hurt or misunderstood. In that moment, it's so easy to just see the other person as separate from you, as the source of your frustration.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely been there.
Yeah, we all have. But what if in that moment you could remember that, on a deeper level, you're both part of this same mind, that you're both waves in the same ocean? It's like you're essentially arguing with yourself. It doesn't mean the conflict magically disappears, but it can completely shift your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it would be a lot harder to stay angry at someone if you saw the conflict as something happening within this, like, unified consciousness rather than between two totally separate individuals.
Exactly. It encourages compassion and understanding. It allows us to see the situation and the other person with more empathy and forgiveness. It's pretty powerful stuff.
It really is. So to recap, what we're learning here is that we're all part of this divine mind. We are all inherently holy, and recognizing this has the power to totally transform how we see ourselves, our relationships, and the world around us.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you go about your day-to-day, I want you to really consider this. If all minds are truly connected, how might that change the way you approach disagreements?
That's definitely something I'll be thinking about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Ando Course in Miracles. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.